For almost 2 years, I thought I understood Bitcoin. I didn't. Not slightly wrong, fundamentally wrong, in a way that explains every anxious moment, every near sell, every time the price moved and I felt something I couldn't control. The shift did not come from reading a new article. It came from a single conversation that reframed everything in about 90 seconds. I'm Sats, and this is the thing that changed how I hold Bitcoin permanently. Let me tell you how I had been thinking about Bitcoin before that conversation, because I suspect it is how most people think about it, especially in the early months. I had been thinking about Bitcoin as a price. Not consciously. Not in a way I would have admitted if you had asked me. I would have told you I understood the supply cap in the network and the long-term case. And I did understand those things in the way you understand things you have read about. But the way I actually related to my Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis was entirely through the number on the screen. When the number went up, I felt good about my decision. When the number went down, I felt bad about my decision. The quality of the decision itself had not changed. The reasoning I had used to make it had not changed. But the number had changed, and so my feeling about the decision changed with it. That is not investing, that is scorecard watching, and it is exhausting in a way that investing should not be. The conversation that changed things happened with someone who had held Bitcoin for several years longer than I had. I was describing the anxiety of watching a drop, and they said something I did not immediately understand. And this is where the conversation shifted. They said something I didn't immediately understand. You are measuring the wrong thing. I asked what they meant. They said that the price of Bitcoin on any given day is not a signal about Bitcoin. It is a signal about how people feel about Bitcoin today. And how people feel about Bitcoin today is influenced by news cycles, macro conditions, leverage in the market, sentiment on social media, and a dozen other things that have nothing to do with whether Bitcoin is what you think it is. The underlying thing, the fixed supply, the decentralized network, the 17 years of continued operation, the growing institutional adoption, the mathematical scarcity, those things do not change when the price changes. What changes is the mood of the market, and the mood of the market is not the same as the value of the asset. And that's when it clicked. I had been measuring the mood. I thought I was measuring the asset. That reframe sounds simple when I write it down now. It did not feel simple in the moment. It felt like something clicking into place that should have been obvious much earlier, which is a particular kind of uncomfortable. Here is what changed after that conversation. When the price fell, I started asking a different question. Not how much am I down, but has anything changed about why I hold this? And almost every time the answer was no. The news was noisy. The market was emotional. But the fixed supply was still fixed. The network was still running. The case I had originally found compelling was still intact. And this is the part I didn't expect. Almost nothing changed. That question, has anything actually changed, became the filter through which I processed every price movement. And it turned out that almost nothing that moved the price on a daily or weekly basis was information that should change the decision. It was just noise. And I had been treating noise as signal for almost 2 years. Here's the harder version of this insight. Because there is a harder version. The same filter applies in reverse. A new all-time high is also not a signal about Bitcoin. It is a signal about how people feel about Bitcoin today. The mood going up is not more meaningful than the mood going down. The underlying case is the same in both directions. The mistake of selling during a crash and the mistake of buying in a panic during a run-up come from the same place. Treating the mood of the market as information about the asset. The people who hold Bitcoin with the least anxiety are not the ones with the strongest nerves. They are the ones who have genuinely separated the price from the asset, who can watch the number move in either direction and return to the same question. Has anything changed about why I hold this? If the answer is yes, act on it. If the answer is no, continue. That is the whole system, and I wish I had understood it at the start rather than 2 years in. Quick recap before you go. For almost 2 years, I was thinking about Bitcoin as a price. When it went up, I felt good. When it went down, I felt bad. I was measuring the mood of the market and mistaking it for information about the asset. The price of Bitcoin on any given day is a signal about how people feel about Bitcoin today. It is not a signal about whether Bitcoin is what you think it is. The question that changes everything is not how much am I down or up. It is, has anything changed about why I hold this? Almost nothing that moves the price on a daily basis should change the answer to that question. The same filter works in both directions. A high is no more meaningful than a crash. Both are mood. The asset is something else. If you want to build the understanding that makes this filter actually work, you need to be clear on what Bitcoin is and why it has value in the first place. The video on why Bitcoin has value is the foundation. If you can answer that question in your own words, the price becomes a lot easier to ignore. Watch that next. Stack smart. Stay curious. See you in the next stack.